All right, it is Friday, October 3rd. This is the Town of Dryden Public Broadband Committee meeting. This is the first of two meetings each month. They're on the first and third Friday from 10:30 to I think noon is what we have them now set to be, although I'm still trying to wrap them up by 11:30. This is the reporting meeting on the month of September of 2025. So everything that happened last month, we're pretty close. So the month just ended on Tuesday, so we've got a lot of fresh information to cover. I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through the presentation and have just time for discussion about what's been going on with the project. Let's see. It's sharing our sign-up sheet, which is a different tab. Here we go. All right, as this loads, September, pretty busy month with everything except for installations. This is the month where we had our GDA go before the Empire State Development Board for their review. It was one paragraph of I think like a 500-page PDF file about everything going on that Empire State Development approves and covers and reports on. They only meet quarterly, so it takes a while uh, to get these things on the agenda and get them to the agenda. So where we are now, we are at 476 paying customers. Looks like we added 8 in September. At the end of August, we were at 472. I think some of the counting was not quite correct. We did have 27 inbound requests in the month of September, which is one of our lowest months. We'll look at that later in the report. Our monthly revenue is now over $26,000 per month, so we went up about $500 with some new customers. We added 0 parcels, which was actually probably our expectation since we aren't doing any construction. And so we remain at that 1,815 parcels, just under 31% of the town. The Freeville extension expansion into Freeville was awarded on September 18th at the town board meeting. This is a 900 plus parcel extension that is over 25 miles in fiber, I think 20 miles aerial and about 8 or 9 miles underground. And it has a 60 business day build plan estimated once the work commences. Finally, marketing, we started our marketing email finally after talking about doing it for quite a while. Sent that out on Wednesday afternoon to about 470 of our customers. Talked about the refer a friend as well as signage, as well as a few other things. We'll cover that later in the call. The Empire State Development Board, as I said, approved our expansion of the project, although there are still a few more hoops to go through before we can make that public. The network audit began this month in September to go through and assess and document everything in the network, which was a gap when we changed to engineering firms. Our repair project wrapped up, which was, I believe, actually, I think it was over 230 anchors and guy wires that were installed across the network. Perfect for both the windy weather in the summer, but also the snow and the ice in the winter. And finally, in September, we brought all of our inventory and account management in-house just for better controls, easier for Amanda and I to operate what's going on, give Matt from our accounting team a little bit more work to do. He's been doing a great job for us on accounting, so we're adding inventory to some of the task work that he's doing. So busy month. We're going to dive into some of these a little bit deeper, but before we go on, any high-level questions about where we're at? And I'll either answer now or I can go to maybe it might be answered a little bit later in the deck.
Um, I guess I don't know if it'll be answered later, but I guess when are we gonna start adding miles to to get back into the construction phase? Like how quick?
Um, we are doing a bunch of things right now to be getting ready for that. So what that means is the electrical make ready for the polls is being conducted all over town, as well as a little bit in Caroline. I believe Danella has a crew here, and reportedly HRS has 6 or 7 crews in town. I know if you were on Peruville Road yesterday. You saw them replacing some poles up there on the north side of Peruville Road, where it kind of dips down as it head toward Lansing. Um, I believe Syracuse Utilities will, Sean's here, but Syracuse Utilities will probably be starting next week. When will we have miles? I don't know how far we are from that project actually having miles show up on the map. Um, Maybe Brad and can answer that. Brad?
Yeah, just a couple notes on that, Jason. One, we had just kind of in the contract execution phase, there was some questions regarding around prevailing wage and what the appropriate wage was for this
Yeah.
project. We got those clarified with the state. So we've got better direction there now. So that probably ate up a week, I would say, Dave, of just trying to sort through that. And now, Sean and I have been in contact. I think we're going to meet again here this afternoon, make sure they've got everything they need from materials to work plans, et cetera. And then we'll have a little bit better game plan. I know even with the electrical make ready going on, there's certainly underground work that can be done. And that's what they're looking to, get started on as soon as possible, just knowing that we've got winter months ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
This expansion area includes Leisure Lane off of Route 366 between Freeville and McLean. That entire neighborhood, which I think is two roads, kind of like a football shape, is all underground utilities. So that's a big part of the underground for this phase.
Mhm.
There's also some work where the fiber and strand was already put on the poles, and there's coils. So for that part of the project, the only thing left is for splicing. So we'll check the box of it being wired and then another box for it being green once the splicing's done. I don't know when that'll get assigned. That's maybe Brad and Sean can give us a report on that sometime next week. Because there's a bunch of this particular area of the around third 25 plus miles that's already hung. It just needs to be spliced into the network, MSTs and light tests, and then we're good to go.
Have we already called in the dig orders for the along Leisure Lane, that kind of thing? Because there's a 10-day window usually you gotta.
I don't think we've
No,
yet.
I
No, Brad.
Sean, I was just going to speak for Sean. We usually that's not done until, immediately before, where they have 48 hours to get that marked out, Sean, and then you've got a 10-day window. So it's usually, you're doing that right in front of the fiber construction.
Correct.
Maybe we could call those in today and it would be cleared for construction starting Wednesday, I believe,
Mhm.
which might be the amount of time needed to get all the equipment back in town, all the drills and the water tanks and everything else needed for drilling.
So it's possible they could start next week with this. That's what or the weekend. I mean, I'm a little worried because we don't have solid dates yet, Dave, and this has been a concern in the whole project that it's a little,
Well,
it's so we hear that, oh yeah, it's going to be this many days or whatever. So, and then it's always seems to be a little bit more. It's a little, we got to be a little
yeah.
bit careful because we got a real deadline coming, coming
One
up.
thing I took out of this abbreviated
So,
executive summary is that there is a 45 business day window of planning before the 60 business days of construction. So when
okay.
the project is awarded, as it was on the 18th of September, then between engineering and construction, they have 45 days to commence
Okay.
construction. And that's the planning of getting the materials and getting a good plan in place. Like, here's what to do, but how are we actually going to implement it? So that's a 45 day, which is actually like 9 weeks, obviously, with 5 days per week, followed by 60 days, which is another 12 weeks. So we put the Freeville expansion, which is phase one of three for the rest of the build, at 9 weeks plus 12 weeks, so 21 weeks, which is 5 months of time from signing. Now, we don't need to wait those whole 45 days. They can start as soon as they're
Mhm.
ready, but there's that 45 day in the RFP in the contract that says you have to start construction within 45 days. And then once you start, you have 60 days to finish.
Okay. So we're
So
looking, yeah, okay, so that's 3 months, not 2 months. So, because my expectation from reading what we have here, it's 2 months, and this is, so we need to be clear that it probably there is some
yes,
still
that's why
time there.
I put the business
Yes,
days in
yeah,
there.
sorry.
Other documents did say 30 or 45 calendar days,
Yeah,
which would be, wow, that's not much time if it was 60 calendar days, which, as you said, 2 months. But with 60 business days, it's really 3 months. And the other 45 days from signing to commencement is 45 calendar days. So not a month and a half, it's actually 9 weeks. Yeah. I don't think Sean or Brad or anyone wants to use up all 45 of those buffer days to get started. It's getting it's going to be 80 degrees this weekend, but it is going to get colder and the ground is going to be messier, and we want to get this stuff done. But as we mapped out what this phase looks like and the next two following it, it does still flow based on the timelines where we're finished before the end of next year, which is the deadline for MIP.
okay. So I would appreciate when we see this, that we have what we think the longest date is, that it needs to get complete, that we're aiming to get completion by, so. So that would be the
I
60
do have a
days.
spreadsheet
If we
that
could put it,
Vantage provided us. It had a little bit of questions that Carlos is editing. Carlos works for
okay.
Brad, Vantage team. Brad, we should get that Gantt chart that Carlos did last week. Get that updated because
Okay.
it'll show all three phases, when we're going to bid them out, when we're going to award them, the buffer time, and the construction time. The last one I looked at, it showed it, I believe, finishing September 30th of next year. Definitely would be a useful tool for the Public Broadband Committee to understand where we're going with construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and for the public too. I mean, that's,
Yes.
yeah, because I would say, oh, when you look at these minutes, it would say, oh, it's at 60 days, we'll be done. So we'll be done by January then, or mid late
Yeah, no,
January,
I mean, 60
whatever.
days from today would be, oh,
Yeah,
by December 3rd.
yeah,
The reality is we haven't commenced, and
yeah,
then it's 60 business days.
yeah. So,
Um, Matt worked on updating our MIP scoreboard. Some of the key things on here, as much work as we've done on MIP since the launch last June, since we were awarded the grant, and how we haven't actually started construction specifically on the paid part of it. We're only halfway through, only 15 months into this 30-month plan. So we have a lot of time left, given that we're just at 50% of the time now. And that's probably a good sign of how much time it takes on these projects to plan the projects and get the permitting and know where we're going to put the fiber and get the materials. Uh, on top of that, we kind of lost from June to February when we switched engineering firms. So as a restart, we're doing the whole thing in not 30 months. We're doing it in like 22 months. So we're feeling good because we are only just now hitting halfway through the time allotted for this grant. 10% of parcels have been reached so far, 49 installs out of the 400 that are granted to us. And the mileages, we're making an adjustment. This does include some non-MIP funded miles. And we are working our way to reach some of those unserved that are at the outer edges of the network.
Yeah, to your point, Dave, that
Okay.
both those numbers will come down because I think in the GDA it's going to be 147, and about 5 or 6 of that 23 is counts towards MIP, as defined in what was approved last week,
Yeah. Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
There's been a lot of redefining what counts, what doesn't count, what's MIP. And the main reason is in the map, the blue says the existing network. Red is proposed network. You see a lot of it in Carolina, a lot of it in the southern half of Dryden. Part of it is the Empire Overlash. Part of it is Wood Road and Etna Road, part of Handshop. For the most part, the red part of the network that reaches the unserved or underserved as part of the MIP is not being paid for by the state. The reason why they are on our project is because if we didn't bid for those in our proposal, they could have given those locations to another ISP to be funded to go and build. We said we're already going to be building to those particular places, and we're already in the process of either permitting or construction. So give us those dots on the map. We will reach them with our network. They said, great, but then there's a lot of questions like, do those miles that we're building to reach those dots count? They're not going to pay us for those, which is our expectation, but do we actually get to count those miles and the permits behind those miles as part of the project? Literally, that's eaten up a substantial amount of time between Brad, his team, Amanda, figuring out like the permitting through and the miles of what actually counts. If we have to answer that, I can't say where we would be on the project. Probably weeks, maybe months ahead, if that was like clearly understood from the beginning. But because we have these purple dots that are MIP funded installations, although not MIP funded miles to the homes or permits, the mileage is confusing. We're continually reworking how many total miles we have in the project because of this. Brad or Amanda, anything I missed on this trivial,
No,
trivial stuff?
it the only thing I'd add is it is nice that we do have that clarity now, and it's approved in the approved GDA. I think even, on this week's state call, there's still some questions of if you've only got 5 miles done, how do you have 47 connections? Well, some of those locations are on non-funded routes. So there's still a little bit of confusion around it, but we've drawn a nice line in the sand, I think, with the state of understanding what is what.
Yeah, as long as the waves don't wash it away, which it seemed to do this week when they suddenly asked the same question a second time. But we answered it, so it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, we know they are managing at least 16 other projects. We're probably the most, I'm going to say this because I think we are unique, but we're probably the most unique because we already had so much already built and so much already planned on being built in MIP areas that we were going to pay for, that they have to now figure out like, how do we count those houses so that no one else gets paid to build to there, but also not pay Dryden. It's definitely unique. A lot of these projects were total green zone, whereas like everything 100% is MIP. Goals for 2025, as of 10/1, we're at 476 customers live. I've talked to Amanda. She said, how many are you going to do before the end of the year? I said, we'll be over 500. I said, I think we'll be over 600, but really that has to do with how much of the construction of this Freeville phase gets completed. So all the places where we have coils on poles to get them spliced, I hope we get those done by or before December 1st, and we have a whole bunch of requests already sitting for those the customers are already requested for those areas. I think that will allow us to get to 600, even though we're not on track if we follow the path we're on, which is 20 in July, 20 in August, and 8 in September. On the other hand, we're also working to drive some demand with signs in new neighborhoods where we do have customers, as well as a refer a friend program. So trying to attack this from both sides. New green zones always mean new customers, and then additional marketing support can also drive some customer base. I guess the flip side is by not doing construction for most of the last 6 months and reanalyzing the entire New York State project, we identified a $2.6 million gap in the project that the state has decided to pay to us to build. So we could have been going in that direction that was slow and not as functional as we're looking at forward with this new process, but also been out over $2.5 million in grant funding. So I think we're in the net positive on the slowdown because of the change and re-engineering it and reworking our entire process.
But also, my understanding is we're a lot more confident that we can deliver to each of the buildings that we say we're going to deliver to, which was a little up in the air, I think, when it was looked at, that it wasn't, that engineering hadn't been 100%. So
There's definitely some neighborhoods that we found in the last 3 months where there's just not enough ports to reach all the units in front of those houses, in front of those poles. So that's part of that audit I mentioned on slide 2, that we need to know exactly what's available, and the record keeping basically prior to Vantage was not super. We talked about MIP already. Let me go over the MIP summary. September 18th, we had the Empire State Development Board met and approved the expansion. In October, there will be a ESD public hearing. I think it's the 12th. On the 15th is the Public Authorities Control Board hearing. We have to pay for these hearings, for the announcements of the hearings. There's a small fee. It's under $500, but they will not tell us what that fee is for 3 to 4 weeks after the hearing. Once they tell us that, we can send them the payment, and then we can send them the GDA. And then once the GDA, the grant disbursement agreement, is signed, then we can send our first reimbursement request. So it looks like it'll be sometime between November 5th and 12th. The town board has already authorized Jason to sign the GDA, and they've already authorized to make the payment for this reimbursable part of the public hearings, which is around $500. So this pathway we're on going forward does not hinge on having a public town board meeting to review these. There have already been the dollar amount hasn't changed from that, and it's not to exceed $500 on the dollar amount. So for that one-time payment for the public hearings. So the 3 to 4 week time for the billable amount of the public hearings was another surprise. We thought as soon as this last PACB meeting happened, we'd be able to sign the GDA the next day, but it's going to push it out to November. Any questions on the financing business side of the MIP project? We can do a deep dive in 2 weeks where we look at the 4 different reimbursement phases, the 4 different milestones. The first one's about $2 million, and then they go from there all the way until we request reimbursement all the way up to the full 11.6 million. Another part of MIP is the Caroline Central Office construction. It should begin next week. So there'll be gravel put down, a pad, conduit pipes for utilities. The bids are open on September 5th, and groundbreaking for this will be on October 27th. By the time we have the groundbreaking, the ground will already have been broken, but there will be a ceremonial groundbreaking. We're awaiting confirmation from the governor, and we'll talk about the groundbreaking in just a few minutes. Finally, as part of MIP, permits and contractors for electrical make-ready are moving forward. We've awarded quite a few of these. There's a few left to do, and in the month of September, as of 9/4, we've already talked about this a few times. Richardson is sending a bunch of crews here to work on this to get this done. In today's Town of Dryden newsletter, if you're not signed up for that already, you can go to dryden.ny.us, sign up for it. There's a long article from me to the residents regarding the construction starting and to be aware of all the vehicles. When you see signs or names on vehicles for Richardson and Son or HRS, for Danella, for Syracuse Utilities, for Clarity, or for Vantage, those are all part of Dryden Fiber's build out. And there will be flaggers. Please drive slow, give them the right of way. This is a part of doing the construction that there will be some one-lane driving for a little while. This is also a 40-year infrastructure project, so it'll be a short-term traffic issue, maybe 1 or 2 days, for a very long-term payout.
So I was just curious, it's very minor, but where exactly is the building going at the Caroline Town Hall?
Oh, that's a good question. When you're facing the town hall from Route 79, there's the new town hall.
Yep.
To the right of it is the old town hall. To the left of it is a small field, and then there's a row of pine trees and a charging station.
Right.
We're gonna use that um, grassy area immediately west of the current town hall.
Got it.
There will be a gravel area, a rectangle, and then within that there'll be a paved pad as well as uh, a handhole where the fiber will come in and then into the building, as well as a generator. There will not be a fence around the building. It's basically fenced in by the road to, I think, Fountain House Apartments, the town hall, the field and the pine trees, and Midline Road. So there's no physical neighbor right up against it. There's not like a building next to it, or if anyone's there, it's going to have a lot of visibility from people who are around.
I know somebody that lives within sight of the town hall that was asking me about where exactly they were going to put it.
Yeah, just to the left of the town hall. In the future, we could put things around it. We could put fences around it, or I mean, the town board of Caroline has discussed a few different options for anything, like putting a fence around it, putting a mural on it. We want it. The focus is functional, but beyond that, how it looks is also a consideration.
And those, I mean, even the one that sits by the DPW for Dryden, that building doesn't look bad. I mean, there's it's kind of
the intention is not to make them look bad. Yes.
I know.
We're very lucky with the location that we have it in Dryden, in that you can't really see it from the road.
Yeah.
And most days of the week, that one is surrounded by DPW trucks on one side, the DPW building on one side, the barn on the other side. So it's really well hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Whitmer, Town of Caroline Supervisor.
I just thought I was interested in Tony's, that there's a neighbor that commented. I just will.
Not really a neighbor. She lives up the road, up Creamery Road, within
Oh,
sight.
okay. So yeah, I had it staked out from the original site plan, which included the entire site, not just the building footprint, the hut footprint. So she might have seen those orange flagged stakes, which
Okay.
were like 3 feet from the town office building, but that's not where it's going to be. We moved the hut and the generator as far as we could, close to Midline Road. So
Got it. Yeah.
there'll
So
be
near
a
the-
good space between the office building and that.
near the charging station.
Yeah, to the
Yes.
north of the charging station. That's right.
There will be a full car length between Midline Road and the hut.
Right.
So like, I don't know if we're going to have ballards or anything to protect the building, but it will not be right against the road. It'll be at least a car length then. Yeah, we can bring that map up. I'll bring the map, the display of what it looks like to the meeting in 2 weeks.
I'm just curious. Like I said, I got the question, so I was
There's always questions. Good.
always questions. You know,
So
it's amazing what you hear at the Dryden Barbershop.
is that on Main?
I know who you're talking about.
Oh, wow. So speaking of Caroline, the groundbreaking for Caroline is going to be at the hut location, at the town hall location. So we've gone back and forth with Empire State Development and the Connect All office, as well as the governor's chambers, and it looks like the date of Monday, October 27th at 12:30 p.m. is the date that has the most likelihood that the governor can attend. It's not a guarantee. We're still working on the scheduling. We might not find out until Friday or even Sunday the 26th. But as of right now, it's the time that they gave us that said it could work for the governor. Of course, we don't know what else could happen in New York State. Obviously, New York is a big state, 19 million people. Between Dryden and Caroline, we have 18,000. So for the governor to come and spend basically a half a day getting here, being here, It's a pretty big investment. That being said, we're going to have this event. It's going to be Monday, October 27th, 12:30 to 2 p.m. in the afternoon at the Caroline Town Hall. We will have shovels. We'll have some ground area prepared. We'll have the dignitaries on the project break the ground. As I said, it may already be broken. And we're asking people to RSVP in the next 2 weeks so we can have an idea of what that looks like. I have another slide, but any questions at the high level of the groundbreaking?
I'd love to be there. I don't think I'm going. I actually signed up for a planning conference that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh.
But
Well, I think we'll have another event when we have our first customer go live in Caroline. And then we'll have a final event when we get the last, the golden MST spliced into the network. Not quite the golden spike in Utah, but when we get that last house of MIP done, we'll have something for that day. And then when we get the final house in Caroline, which does not have the time limit that we have for MIP for Caroline, we get the last house in Dryden done, we'll have another event then. So there would be a few more things coming up over the next year and a half or 2 years. I don't think the governor will beat all those.
Do we have a Dryden's fiber sign outside there yet?
We don't, but we probably will soon. It's a good idea. The groundbreaking Tiger team is me and Mark Whitmer and Cassie. If there are other people who want to help out, we definitely appreciate it. There's a lot of little details that have to happen to make this go off. Right now, the speaker roster is the governor, myself, it says execute director. It's actually executive director. Jason and Mark as the leaders of the 2 towns with the project. This is the initial guest list of dignitaries and electeds. In addition, the town board, the other committees of the towns, all of our subcontractors, the general public, also on the invite list. I think we were originally estimating 35 to 50 people, but it may be more like somewhere in the 50 to 80 people. There is a lot of interest in broadband in Caroline. So this is a Caroline hosted event, even though it is for both the whole Caroline Dryden MIP project. Any questions on the Caroline groundbreaking?
I know you're making me want to skip out of this conference for half a day.
Is it local or is it?
It's a Greek Peak. It's a Greek Peak, so it wouldn't be that hard to get over there.
You're not the chair of the planning board, are you?
I am the chair of the planning board, yes.
Well, thank you for doing that and this. All right, this is something that we want to be continuing to update, which is our construction status report. With this new process, the steps go down from 1 to 6 as they go on the chart. This is actually showing this from a month ago when we had 4 projects. We're moving these 2 Caroline projects into a single project. As of right now, nothing has started, but probably after today's meeting between Vantage and Syracuse Utilities, step 1 of project 1 will be handed over, and that will be green. And then construction will begin on step 2. So over the course of the next 15 months, as the project moves on, everything will go through until all these are completed. Not much else to add on the status right now. Let's go to team reports, and we'll start with Amanda.
So good morning. Basically a customer base, as Dave said, we had 8 installations this month, 9, because we had a business customer sign up. We did lose 1, and that was just somebody that moved out of their apartment. So it basically just somebody moved people's lives. So yeah, we'll verify the totals with Dave, but this is from the customer account after the October 1st billing.
Any questions for Amanda? Okay, let's do finance part 1.
Yes. So customer subscriptions continue to be growing, mainly because we add more customers. Construction, these are some minor, some expenses that are still happening, even though we aren't in a lot of construction. This includes our engineering, includes legal, anything to do with the construction portion. Installations, cost of installations, and this goes back. So you're like, wait a minute, we only had eight installations. Why is it 19,000? You have to remember these take a while to come in. So this is probably installations from July and August still coming in for those. And then operations, normal month, no unusual expenses in the month of September. Our accounts receivable, one thing I will mention is we are getting pretty militant, maybe is a good word, about accounts receivable. The first month I'm like, hey, they're new, let's figure it out. Second month, if we're not getting payment, they're getting shut off. And with warnings, like a couple warnings usually, like you have a week, or hey, we can work with you, let us know your plan. Like if you need to pay one this week and the other 2 weeks later, like just communicate with us. And a lot of times it's just sometimes their credit card doesn't like our system, and so it kicks it out, and so we have to follow up with them. So nothing concerning. You know, we've had a few oddball customers that just drop off the map, and they never contact us, never tell us that they're, you know, not coming back. But I think that's par for the course in this type of service. We do try to follow up as soon as they shut off. You're like, okay, if you're all done, please return your equipment. And please finish your bill. I had to write a few customers off because they didn't respond back, phone, email, anything. So I just wanted to mention those couple things. And I'm myself and Matt and Dave will be in the throes of trying to project the next few years and project budget with the change of the construction next year to be all of Dryden. So we are working towards a project budget. Hope to have that probably next month before it's ready. But we are working on that right now.
Thanks, Amanda. Any questions? As a very brief budget preview, the average installation costs $1,000. So this installation, September 2025, 19,000, about 19 installations that covers. And that's both the hardware, the plume device, the ONU, the NID, as well as the drop cable, as well as the labor to do the installation. It's about 1,000. If we looked at what we are going to try to do within MIP and outside of MIP. So MIP is funding 400 installs. We've done, I think, 40 of those so far. So we have 360 installs within MIP areas to do next year. Those are funded. Those are easy, but we do have to pay for them up front and get reimbursed for those. On top of that, right now we have just about 1,800 locations. When we are totally done with our build, there'll be 6,000 locations in Dryden and 1,200 in Caroline. So that's 7,200 total locations. We believe, based on already having 500 people signed up that are in the wait list, that they're all going to want to be activated. It's likely that we will do an installation in town of Dryden for 800 installs next year, which means we have to have $800,000 to pay for those installs. And then over time, as they're paying their bills, we'll pay that off, as was part of the plan. But that means upfront, we have to have a substantial amount of money. It's also going to be a factor for Caroline's expansion. MIP is only covering about 270 installations for the town of Caroline. We're estimating about 800 installs in total for Caroline in 2026 and 2027, which means they have to have another $500,000 for installations for Caroline. 500 installs, $1,000 each, $500,000, which means we have to be able to front that money to pay for the installs and then pay it back. With both towns, that'll be done through the ban, which means we're requesting the ban to have enough money to pay for those to pay them back. On top of that, construction, which we're already estimating, roughly, I don't know, $75,000 per mile times roughly 200 miles to go. So that's another $15 million that we have to spend to build it all over the next 15 months. So some of that is reimbursable. A substantial amount of that is reimbursable, but not all of it, which means, and we have to have the money to pay the bills before we get reimbursed. So the ban for next year for Dryden and the ban for Caroline in 2026 and 2027 will be substantial, which was what is going to be eventually when we finished, but if finishing earlier means we have to have more money requested through the bans sooner. I'm going to pause, let you absorb that and see if you have any questions.
Can you remind me how the lead time for getting the bans, was it once a year or every quarter we can go for it, or I just don't
Once a
recall. I
year.
know Amanda once a
Yeah,
year.
it's a once a
so-
year. Our renewal is in January, so I have to have the request. I'm going to say November at the latest, so that all the process and the legal and all the reporting that has to happen. The town has already approved it. I'm going to have to check on a few details, and that's why we're working on that budget right now, to make sure we have everything in place.
And remind me again, do we actually get that money sitting in the account, or is it just something we can draw on if we don't take it?
Nope, they basically say if basically whatever we ask for, the whole chunk lands in our bank account.
Okay.
Which is
And we
interesting
hold
is they give it to us. We earn interest on it, but we're also paying interest on it.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, we get that. We have to have enough of it to do it, to do all this work. Next year will probably be the most unique year financially of the project to date, and probably going forward, because after that, when major construction is completed across Dryden, the adding to the till will stop. There will be continual maintenance and repairs. There'll be installation costs that will be projecting out for the next 3 or 4 years as we build out to everyone who wants the service. There'll be the monthly operational costs, but this will be like a big bump in the overall finances for spending.
So it'll be around 16 million we'll be adding probably if you take the installs plus the.
I mean, back of the envelope, but we haven't
Yeah.
brought it all into spreadsheets yet. Yeah.
Mm.
Which, the project was always
Mm.
known to be somewhere in the 10 to 20 million. I think 14.9 before. It's probably going to be at least that, if not more. Plus what we already have. That's for construction installations for 2026. That doesn't include the existing ban, which wraps all the previous bans from 2022 through 2025.
Mm.
Again, this was always part of the plan, which is to take on the debt, build this, and have the customer base over a period of time, 12 to 15 years, pay off the bond through the revenue from the user base. All right, thanks, Amanda. Going up with the chart.
Yep, just again in continual showing the chart. Obviously, the note's still below for the August kind of unique situation. So we're back to kind of about normal for expenses for the month of September.
Over time, we believe that expenses line will continually be under the revenue so that we can start to use the monthly revenue to pay for installations, which, as we said, about $1,000 per install, which means if the average customer is paying us $50 a month on average, it takes around 20 months of them being a customer to pay for that installation. Then that revenue goes to paying off the long-term debt of construction of the network. And then we put money aside for maintenance and repairs in future expansion. Far off in the future for Dryden years, decade plus. When we have reserves built off, then we'll determine what to do. But that is a problem for not just another call, but possibly another year, another decade ahead. We have a lot of bills to pay, and this revenue being breaking over the expenses line is the start of that. But eventually, it has to be substantially above the expenses line to be able to pay off all the installs and to pay off all the construction. Andrew's here. Andrew, do you have anything on customer service you want to mention? Any specifics?
I can't think of anything specific. Everything's normal, standard, I guess.
Cool.
Nothing unusual.
Good. All right. Any questions on customer service? It's not really in this report, but I think there were 4 fiber cuts in August, September, and like 3 of them happened over like one weekend. You know, summer's over, back to school, do some yard work, dig up your fiber line, things like that. All were repaired, I believe, there too.
Outages due to damaged fiber lines.
What's that?
It was outages due to damaged fiber lines.
Individual households who called in were like, my network's not working. Is something wrong with your network or your equipment? And then later they were like, oh, I did dig it up.
Yes.
So Clarity did some really quick turnarounds, like within 24 hours of notification, to get out there and make those repairs.
That's good. We did have an issue on the website, right? Then that's been
the contact form on the website
right. Is broken.
Is replaced by just email us directly.
Right.
We're working on paths to solve that, but we've learned a lot about how that was being managed and some of the gaps. Yeah. We've at least stopped it from getting worse. We haven't made it we haven't determined the fixing for that. I'll be meeting with Kyle, who's our marketing support person, on Monday to figure out what our path forward looks like for the website, as well as the contact form.
Dave, did we ever set a standard on how deep they should be placing that fiber? Because I know in the installations that I saw, I had to sort of get involved to get my one lower than where I want.
I don't know, Eric, is there Eric Beckhorn from Clarity is here. Is there any standard you follow for depth?
8 inches.
8 inches.
We do 8 inches.
And I can tell you the installations on Hanford, which are all buried, were deeper than Spectrum's cable by a significant amount.
Wow.
Because to do mine in one spot, they actually crossed the Spectrum cable, so I know exactly how deep the Spectrum cable was.
Nice. Cool. Thanks, Andrew.
And they didn't cut the Spectrum cable, even though I didn't care if they cut the Spectrum cable.
That's good, I guess. If you ever want to go back to rotary phone, all right. Sales, as we've already covered, 8 installs this month. I think we had 3 scheduled as of October 1st. It might be more. We had a couple come in this week. Construction pause has led to installation slowdown. That's been the story for the last 6 months. And an MDU requires substantial information and engineering planning. We are changing direction on that. Brad has requested additional resources, Brad from Vantage. So we have a new team member from Vantage who's helping us with our MDUs. And we'll start to see this in the next chart get updated and be a bit more green as we move through these projects. Next week, I'll be meeting with Kayla Lane from Dryden Apartments. They own or manage about a third of these locations. So get a real clarity about where they are, what their expectations are, what kind of help they need, and then what kind of work we need to do. I'll also be meeting with Richard Waywack, who owns both 1062 Dryden Road, as well as 1279, which is that new construction next to where the old Plantations restaurant was. We're going to meet with him first for 1062, 21 apartments to bring the network in there, hopefully by the end of October, and then market to those 21 residents. And then sometime in looking at January of 2026, that new construction of his opens up. I would like to be his primary broadband provider. So that'll happen after 1062. So we're making some progress with each of these as we go through. I'll share this deck with the Broadband Committee. So if you have any questions, we can talk about them when we get together in 2 weeks.
Do you know where we are with the Etna Mills?
That is one of the ones that Dryden Apartments manages.
Yeah.
They are prioritized. It should happen in 2025, but there were many, many of these that were ignored by our prior engineering firm. So we have a big stack up between these 2 pages of green zone locations that we should be providing service to that just were ignored. And when Advantage came on, Brad was like very aggressive about like, yeah, let's get these guys. But adjusting the contract with New York State and redesigning the entire network to make sure there's enough bandwidth for all the houses we want to reach and all the fiber became a priority. So about a month and a half ago, Vantage said, let's bring an additional resource just to manage these projects. So we're going to try to get through the entire queue, including Edna Mills at 1 Etna Lane.
Yeah. Have you had any response from Freeville Cottages?
He has the agreement. He has not responded.
Yeah.
He being Bruno.
Bruno, yeah.
Among other things, all these current task owners that were Tracy are now Dave. So I'll be doing some follow-up with each of these property owners. I started going through them based on the size of the opportunity for the project, as well as how long they've been in the green zone or been surrounded by the green zone, as well as the number of people who live in those areas who have signed up. I think we have like 1 resident of Freeville Cottages who signed up, or we have in some of these places like 3, 4, 5, 6 people have signed up already. So we're trying to balance the prioritization around the demand.
That makes sense. And I see George Jr. is in the drafting phase. That's good.
Yes.
I would love to see them get on.
And
I was talking to the director, or the person that runs William George.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's not a single one on here that we're like, we don't really want to give them service.
yeah, no.
Many of these are in the green zone or surrounded by green zone.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to reach them and get them online.
George Jr. already has their own fiber throughout the campus. From
Yes, this is just plugging into one location, and then it will bring everything up online once. Yeah.
Do we know when the school contracts are up for Dryden and schools? Because they were getting something through BOCES, I believe, and there was some talk about that they were in a contract so they couldn't change. Do we know when that alters?
No, but that's a good question.
Contract up.
Jason, I know you've talked to the school a little bit. Do you have anything on Dryden Central School District? It's also been.
I haven't talked to them in a while. I just know they've been expressed interest just the same way TC3 did, but we were way too early in the process to really get into detail with them.
I think I know one of the gaps was they don't want to have it until they can have it at every location,
Yeah.
which includes Freeville, McLean, the building in the village, as well as the high school, middle school. I think we can now reach all those. I'm not sure if we can reach that building in McLean yet. So that might have been why. And that just came online in the last few months.
Casavan building. Oh.
Yeah, the Casavan building. So now that we are kind of in McLean, I'll feel better about reaching out to them when we can answer that question. We've brought fiber through into Groton and McLean and then back out just to hit one street up there, but it is not spliced in. So I think once we can service Casavan, I think it makes sense to have that conversation with them about moving. If they are under some kind of a contract, that would be useful to know too, when the renewal date is. Marketing for October's report, which is based on September. This is showing 8 new customers. Obviously, going from 472 to 476 is not 8. As I said at the top of the call, there's some gap in how we recorded the September and August numbers. Requests were down, only 23 inbound requests in the month of September. 11 of those were in the green zone. So it's kind of the first time we've had such a low number of green zone. But every time someone signs up that they're not in the green zone, it means in the future when we can provide them service, they're already in the queue. Website visits a little bit higher than in August. The other marketing things, we talked about hyper engaging our customer base by email. So we did that on Wednesday. We talked about signing for automatic billing. We talked about the refer a friend, yard signs. We already have a handful of people who've said, yes, I want to sign in my yard. And then talking about customer service. That was sent on Wednesday. I know at least a couple of you received that, probably Graham and Tony and Joel. I'll forward that to the Broadband Committee so everyone has a copy of it. Regarding refer a friend, if people decide to ask you as a member of the Broadband Committee about this, refer a friend, and this says both you get 25. We made it so only the person doing the referring gets 25. This is from last month. So we give the person you referred a $25 credit. As long as they have signed up for service by the end of the year, we start billing them before the end of the year. The person that they put down as a referral source gets that credit. The other item we talked about and we added to the newsletter was signing up for automatic payments. We had 27 customers, which is about 6% that did not have automatic billing set up. We put this in the newsletter, crafted the message a little bit differently, and we included a contest that if you are in autopay by the November billing, which is in a month and a half, then you'll be entered for 1 free month of service, except for Graham, who has decided he didn't want to be included in that drawing.
Well, I agree with Graham that I really don't think we should be eligible for these customer-based type drawings. It's not a good look.
That's your choice. That would be you and Graham and Joel. Yeah. Currently, Dan, Jason, and Arthur are not customers. So right. When we put all the names of people who have signed up for automatic bill pay into the big machine where we crank it and we pluck a ball out, if that ball has your name on it, we'll take it outside and pull it out.
Throw it away.
We'll continue to track the automatic billing.
Drawing kind of thing. The refer a friend, I have mixed feelings about. I'm not sure we should really be. I mean, I talk to a lot of people about Trident Fiber, and I'm not sure that's really what we should be doing. But
you personally on the Broadband Committee?
What's that?
You personally on the Broadband Committee, or in general? For customers to refer other?
Well, no, in general, I don't think that the refer a friend thing. I mean, I'm not sure I should be qualified to see that because.
Well, we will be happy to keep track, and if you do get any, we'll know, and then you can decide if you want the credits or not. It's this is an internal way for at least you and Graham and Joel, who are customers, to promote the service and see how well each of you do promote the service. If you want to make that a contest, that's up to the 3 of you. And Dan and Jason.
Let's have a contest.
Which Broadband
but Tony should get his whole road.
Too late. They already signed up.
I know.
You see that? We already got sent one. So
and Aetna has a lot of green and Sims Hill and Aetna that are not signed up yet.
Yeah.
I mean, Graham could be camped out at one Aetna lane at the Mills every day. I mean, there's
But
16
you
units.
can't deliver there yet. That's the
Not yet.
problem. You can't
We-
really deliver. So, and
we-
also I know people up the other, we aren't there yet.
We're not there
We're
yet.
very
That's right.
close, but yeah, you got to
Um,
get up Upper Creek and you got to get along Wood Road and that. So we'll pick up more people there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah.
all right. Brad, do you have any updates that you want to share on engineering?
We covered most of them already. Dave, with respect to electric make ready, the confirmed count of HRS in market is 6 crews. They said if they are awarded, a couple more of the packages that are out for bid right now, that they would bring in 2 additional more to bolster that count to 8. So there's one of the numerous amount of make ready packets that have been approved and pushed out for work. One is complete by Danella. Danella is working on another one, and HRS is on 2 separate projects right now. So really kind of trying to keep our finger on that pulse. That's going to be, again, I've been saying that for months now. That's probably our biggest challenge is going to be getting the electric make ready done. So Syracuse Utilities and can move quickly in building this network. We've covered construction, the light audit we covered, Caroline Hut we covered, MDU we covered. I do have a updated version of the map. We can look at here briefly. Basically, as I'm pulling it up here, the only updates from what we shared at last meeting, Dave, you might have to allow me permission.
You are now a co-host. Welcome.
Nice. Bear with me. Should be coming momentarily.
It's loading. It's a lot of data.
It is.
It's
It's
at
a
least
lot of data.
7,200 parcels, if not more.
Let me know when you can see it.
We can.
It's live.
Okay,
So
so we took more of a project-based approach before. Basically, the updates you see on this map are twofold. Number one is highlighting everything on kind of our MDU project list that Dave spoke about earlier that I've got. Ronnie Voller is her name, working on. We've highlighted those purple, so they're aware that it's not green, but it's in our process. The other thing we did is any parcel without a dwelling on it, we just took color off of that. So again, it's largely project based, with the Freeville expansion in yellow, orange being what will be RFP number 2 as the balance of Dryden, and then Caroline in blue. Again, I know we talked about this last time. Once we get these under contract, we'll be able to develop more granular level of reporting. That's something that, Sean and I will be working on as we look at the Freeville expansion on where they'll be working when, so we can set better reasonable expectations on when people expecting to see crews and ultimately when installation crews will be available post-construction. Any questions?
So all of the non-colored parcels are parcels where there are no dwellings?
Correct.
Wow,
it's surprising.
that's a big area, yeah.
I'm like, that seems like a lot. That's more than I would have expected. We do have a lot of cornfields.
We do.
In the
I
north
mean,
half of town.
agricultural community, right? So yeah.
The other thing is like, this kind of makes it feel a little more digestible as a size of the project. Like, when the entire southern half of town is one shade, it's like that's a huge amount of square miles to reach. This looks doable. A lot more than seeing everything shaded in.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's just a way to view the same data, but other questions?
Yeah, and like in the lower, in the southeastern corner, right? That's Hammond Hill State Forest. So there's a lot of yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's a lot of forest land up there.
Yeah. We can do what the FCC does, which is we can have a place where people think that they have a dwelling on a parcel that's not shaded in. They can contact us and we can assess the data we have and change the color if needed.
What I had, Dave.
Can we see this map or?
Yeah, I can, do you guys
Can we
wanna?
can we put this on ArcGIS?
Yes. Yeah, do you want like a special link, Dave, for the broadband committee first,
Yeah,
or?
let's do that. That way you can play with it, and then
Okay.
I'll just ask for approval, probably by email. And if a majority of the broadband committee emails and says this is good to go, we'll put it on the website
Okay.
to the public.
That is doable. Thank you.
Cool.
Right.
Let's see. Amanda, insurance and HR.
All right, can finally say insurance is moving forward. It's been a lot of back and forth, getting information. It is actually going to be effective 10/1. This includes everything on the poles, in the ground, pops, equipment in the pops, inventory, future build out. Also cybersecurity. We actually need cybersecurity specific for our network, which we didn't know. And the town cybersecurity wouldn't cover the certain risks that go along with Dryden Fiber. So there's documents out for signature. We'll be paying that annual invoice here, and it could be in October, but it could be November, depending on the timing. We did quote out through a couple insurance agencies. Both of them deal with telecommunications and fiber. They were very familiar with what we needed. And their quote came out a little less, but also just very helpful in terms of walking us through all the different perils and issues. And it's a lot of insurance talk, which is confusing in itself. So, and as I said, many of these coverages are required for MIP, the grant agreement. So we'll have this, which is great because the town's policy does not cover some of the equipment and et cetera. So that is one piece. Insurance is moving. The last thing is we are looking to hire a new team member, probably wintertime-ish. We're right now need to get a job type description back approved from civil service, which always takes a little bit of time. So we'll be working on that. And the description is there. So
Amanda, are they requiring us to have a cybersecurity plan?
as of right now, they have not told me that. Now, the insurance company itself, the insurance provider, might come back and say, hey, tell us what you do, this, that, and I had to do a whole application for it. But a plan itself, if something happens, I haven't been asked for that information yet.
Yeah.
And it's really not a case of like, I'm trying to remember what he told me. Obviously the town has it for protection of our server and assets and so on, but Dryden Fiber needs it for another, like if someone attacked our network.
Well,
so-
yeah, our pops, basically, if they break into the administration ports of our pops, they
Okay.
could manage it. So, I mean, the
Yeah.
other thing is, at some point, we probably need to review is how everything's secured.
Yeah.
Like they aren't
So-
using, base passwords. They're altering that. There's a whole series of things that you want people to make sure we're doing. So.
Yeah. So we'll probably follow up with Scott Brennan
so.
because he is the most experienced and
Yeah,
knowledgeable
yeah.
on the pops. in the network inside there. So that'll probably be a continual process, or, you know, the continuation of the insurance process, but
Amanda, was this a local insurance provider partner we found?
no, this was out of not out of New York State. This was actually what it suggested to us from another ISP cooperative fiber company that you had contacts with. I want to say in the Midwest someplace.
Great. That's what I thought. So this has been a need. I need to mention this added benefit of working with Vantage is that when we were looking at Vantage last December, January, February, we asked for references and they gave us the contacts for 3 cooperatively owned ISPs, one in Texas, one in Iowa, and one in Indiana. Since then, I've been in contact with the directors of each of those. So when this insurance question came up 6 or 7 months ago, February, March, I reached out to each of them and asked them for advice. And then was able to connect them and their providers to Amanda to get this moving forward. This has just saved us like many hours of like guessing and hoping that we find someone or seeing if someone local who doesn't have any expertise in this might find a way to create something. So this is a benefit of working with Vantage is they have this broad network of other ISPs that are in the same position we're in that can connect us with other providers. It's probably saved us a bunch of hours. I know Amanda's insurance report was like 6 minutes, but it really was like hours of work over the course of weeks and months to get to where we are today. And insurance, it's super exciting. We're insured.
Sure.
All right. Discussion topic. We can preview this now and talk about it a bit more when we get together in 2 weeks for our discussion meeting. First is rental unit enforcement when a property owner landlord provides broadband to their tenants. At a high level, we have a couple cases that happened in the last month where landlords said, hey, I just want to get one connection and I will have as many Plume devices on a single network for all my apartments. We don't have a policy that says you can't do that. We don't really have a way to enforce people who do decide to do that. There are some risks that we need to educate the landlords, property owners about doing this. Scott Brennan highly recommends that we do not allow this if we know it's happening. At the same time, like neither Amanda nor Matt nor I have badges, so we're not going to be like the police stopping people from doing this. But we need to have a discussion about what this looks like for policy, as well as the risks. I'll share this as part of the deck. Mark Whitmer.
Dave, I just was wondering, can you briefly summarize the risks of doing this? To someone naive like me, it's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
Sure. The bottom half of this slide, bandwidth
Oh.
performance issues are definitely a risk. If you have like 3 apartments on one single Wi-Fi, one of them might use all the data, and the other 2 are like, it's slow, like because someone's gaming or doing a Zoom call like this all day. Security and privacy, you don't know what your neighbors are doing on their network. If there's hacking, that blame would ultimately go to the landlord. If there was suspicious online activity, it may be difficult to trace which computer it was. You know, obviously you can with the IDs of different devices on a network, but it all goes back to the landlord paying the bill who is responsible. If there's any copyright infringement, harassment, or other illegal activity, the account holder with Dryden Fiber would be the one who'd be subpoenaed, not the individual tenants. And finally, control and management. If there is an issue with Unit 1 with their internet, they might not actually have the ONU at their apartment, it might be in the apartment next door. And they got to like knock on the wall and be like, hey, reset the router. I can't use my Plume device off of your Plume device. It's just not good customer service. So that's a high level. There could be a whole book on issues that could happen by doing this.
So does our current service allow like, so you could hook up multiple it sounds like the way this would be set up is you'd have one ONU and then you'd have a switch and plug multiple plume units into that switch. Does our service allow them to get multiple plume IP addresses?
No, that's not how it
Okay.
works. You can't
Yeah.
put a switch on an ONU. You only get one IP address. So everything is daisy
Okay.
chained off of the
Got it. Yeah.
gateway plume. And I mean, and what Dave is saying, I mean, you can even think of like, let's say what neighbor number 2 is having a party one night and
Yeah.
playing music, and I get mad, so I unplug my gateway plume. That knocks out the whole apartment. There goes the music. Now I can sleep. So you can have issues, a lot of issues.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what I thought. I thought you only got one IP address for the router.
And
Right.
he who
Whatever
controls
whether
the link
it's
number
your
1 controls the
right,
whole chain, right?
whether it's your own router or whether it's the plume router, you get one IP address for the router, and then they can hook in from there. The plume devices that also could block you from getting, like, if you're trying to do troubleshooting and there's multiple plume devices, depending on how they hooked them up, you may have trouble getting to the other plume devices inside the network.
Yeah, these are the issues of the issues list I saw that directly impact the property owner and the tenants. There's
Yeah.
another set of issues that affect our customer service team and us as a company.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, how do you support this, right? I mean, because the plume devices are supported by us, but when in a setup like that, it's like that's really up to them to, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
the
not a good
response, the,
Yeah.
the immediate response I've already heard from at least one of these is I was already been doing it with Spectrum, so I'm
Yeah.
okay with the risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
again, we can't necessarily police them if we don't know that they're doing this.
But
Unless,
we could say, is there any way we can identify the units if you've got separate units that it won't be a residential connection then and put it on a different tier?
I mean, even
mean,
even at the business tier, all these risks are the same. They're just
Yeah.
getting more bandwidth and
Right.
a few other features of their
Well, and
business
depending
tier.
on how they do it, I mean, if they set up, even if they get multiple plumes, but if they set it up as a single Wi-Fi, like Graham has in his
login. Yeah.
house, right? Like if you set it up like Graham has, where he has two, like you have more than one device, right, Graham? So you have
Yeah. I've got
multiple in
3.
your house. If you set it up that way and you're just letting your tenants use it,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I don't know how we police that. That's yeah.
Yeah, I think Andrew told me at one point that the average Plume device at an average Dryden Fiber customer has like 15 wireless connections
Yeah.
between cell phones,
Yeah.
laptops, televisions, and toasters. People are connected with all these devices. You wouldn't know which ones are yours or your neighbors.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Is that it would be one. I mean, it would all be one internal private network, right? So it's
Right.
right. You don't know what your neighbors are doing. You don't know what devices they have connected. You don't know how they're dealing with them.
Yeah.
By the way, I have 101 devices on my network.
That is a good conversation outside of this meeting. We'd love to learn what that is. We do know there was a kitchen appliance that was bringing down someone's network in the last year. I
Yep.
can't remember what appliance it was. I think Andrew might remember, but they were like, have you tried unplugging X machine from your kitchen and it fixed their network? I don't know what it
Yep.
was. That could be your neighbors if they're on the same Wi-Fi
Could be-
network.
You're absolutely right. You could get with all these IoT devices that are out there. Some of them are well made, some of them are not, and troubleshooting some of that stuff can get really interesting.
So we'll have a deeper conversation on this when we get together in 2 weeks. I think it's
Okay.
important to know that as we bring more of these MDUs online and more of this expansion, and property owners, landlords who have rental units, they're trying to find a way to provide benefits to their tenants, but also do it affordably. Sharing is a way to do it, but we do not recommend it. But we'll have to write how we recommend that instead. Finally, for discussion, we'll talk about this. Maybe we talked about the map already. I still have a transition options for moving away from Sienna. We do know that Sienna is moving away from fiber to the home and into AI. So our current provider for ONUs is Sienna, and they're going to be going away from that. We do have a lot of their devices either already installed or on hand. They work, they function, but their future is not in fiber to the home. Calix has a proposal. They have stronger single unit Wi-Fi devices. They have robust cloud services. Their focus is on fiber to the home and making that experience better, widely accepted and adopted by peers of ours, including I think 17 out of 18 net integrity ISPs are using Calix. But another one is Adtran. This is about 50-50 for Vantage as a network engineer company. About half of their customer base is using Calix, half is using Adtran. Those are the probably two most trusted widely. Haven't heard much about any like wide usage and adoption and acceptance from any of the open source options or from Nokia. So we're going to try to get something from Adtran and have it available for a presentation in 2 weeks. Hopefully in advance of that, so you can review it and we have a discussion in 2 weeks.
The ISPs that are also community run or do we know what they use?
I'm going to say it's a mix between Calix and Adtran
Okay.
because they're all Vantage customers, and that's where most Vantage customers are, between Calix and Adtran. I can get the exact answer from those three that we already have a relationship with. Finally, our legal endeavors are moving forward. We're turning more of these check marks green. Most recently, audit of the network bid process happened in September, and everything else is either with me or with our law firm or with property owners. So we're moving through these a wide variety of things for our legal department. Yes. Any questions on legal? And that's it. That's the report with 5 minutes to spare. Thanks for the extra 25. We will meet again in 2 weeks, which is going to be on the 17th. And then 10 days after that, on Monday the 27th, is the groundbreaking in Caroline. I'm going to be meeting with Cassie and Mark virtually and then in person a few more times leading up to that. If you want to help us out with the Caroline broadband groundbreaking event, love to have you help us out. Let you know when those meetings are. Other than that, I'm totally open for any other questions next 4 minutes.
That's not really a question, but Lauren is our deputy clerk, and Bambi were talking to me the other day. So they were looking at open meetings law stuff, and they're basically saying our remote committees need to figure out how to have somebody at town hall, or at least some kind of bare minimum of people at town hall for the meetings. I gotta
Jason,
figure
I
out.
think Lauren has some new information on that. So
Yeah.
he
So
came to me.
I was gonna talk with him about
Yeah.
that.
So there's still more coming with that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jason, he did talk to me yesterday. He believes he was wrong with that. And that it's only like voting committees that need to have that quorum in person. So he thinks the way we're doing things now will be fine.
Okay. Yeah. That, yeah.
Well,
I was just
is
gonna
this,
look
so
into
is
it.
this group on the same sort of footing as the plan, so for example, the planning board I know is one, we have to have a quorum in the room for our meetings. People can join via Zoom, but the expectation is that we be in person and we need a quorum in order to vote on things. We need a quorum in the room.
Yeah, that's what Lauren was thinking the other day.
Yeah, but for
We're
some of the
not, but we're
advisory
not like
committees,
that. So.
for the ag committee but is this board a advisory group or is it
It's an advisory group.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's I guess that must be what he looked into more.
Yeah,
'cause
from what I understand, Tony, it's the town board, planning board, zoning board,
Right,
and now ZAG, because it's a subcommittee of
right.
the
Because
planning board. So,
ZAG is a subcommittee of zoning
Yes.
or planning, right? Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and
So
that makes
he-
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Yep.
He's going to do a little more digging, but we're pretty sure we're okay with how we're doing things. So,
right.
Okay, good. That's
Thanks,
cool.
Jason. Keeping us
Yep.
out of trouble.
Well, it's more Lauren, but I'll just start
Right.
talking about it. So, all right, cool. I'll follow up with him again next week when I'm at town hall.
Cool. With that, I will wrap up this document, send it around so you can all have a deeper dive, and then we'll talk about some of those discussion items and probably a check-in on where we are with construction in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody.